Hey guys, welcome back to the Forge. Today we're continuing our Basic Blacksmithing, Getting Started Blacksmithing Series here on the channel. As I said in the last video, we are making a punch in this video, and we're going to be doing a chisel in the next video. Both very quick projects, but the process itself is a little bit time consuming because of the heat treat. So let's get some metal hot and get started.
Alright, remember we are using a 1/2 inch cool spring for our punch. It's a good spring steel to make punches, chisels, knives, or anything like that out of. It's a good starter material too because it's real forgiving when you're hammering on it. Okay guys, remember these are the tongs that we made in the last two videos. If you have not watched those videos yet, you can click the link in the description or up in one of the corners and it'll take you to it. So right here we're just drawing our material out. We're not drawing it out to a point like we do with the hook. We are just drawing it out to roughly the thickness that we need, that of what we want our punch to be. Remember guys, we draw everything out square until we get roughly the thickness that we need, and then we'll round it out. Okay guys, you'll see that I'm squaring up the back half of my chisel. That serves two purposes. One is to keep it from rolling around on the anvil, and the other is it just gives a little bit more comfortable grip. Now you will see in the final photos that'll pop up on Instagram and on Facebook that the chisel's a little shorter. I ended up cutting off about 2 inches of it just because it was just a little bit too long for my personal preference. Okay guys, so just a side note on it and something I wanted to just kind of give an input on. If you leave the chisel alone right there, you've made a square chisel. Just something handy if you ever got to punch a square hole for something in a later project. Just want to give you a heads up on it. And all I was doing at the end right there was just straightening everything up so it was just a little more uniform. So all I'm doing right here is just rounding everything up for my punch. Only the part that is going to be punching through the metal. I still want to leave that back half squared so it again doesn't roll around on the anvil. Okay, so all we're doing right here is just straightening everything up. Now remember, when you're doing your straightening, just hit it once or twice, look at it, hit it once or twice, look at it. Be careful because you can bend your material all out of whack really fast. Okay, so now we're going to do the hardening process, and we need the magnet for this. We're going to get the metal up to critical heat, which means that the metal itself will not stick to a magnet anymore. And that's all I'm showing right here in this. It's just showing that it's at critical heat. I'll put it back in the forge for just a second, and then we're going to go into the quench. So when you go in with the quench, you want to make sure you keep your material moving around. Don't leave it sitting in one spot, it won't cool down good. And I'm quenching probably about, when I first stick it in the hole, about 1 inch to 2 inches of the material. And now I'm just cooling the rest of it down a little slowly at a time. And remember, again, just keep everything moving around. You don't want bubbles forming around it so it doesn't quench good.
Alright guys, let's talk about our next couple of steps. We're going to go down to the grinding room and we're going to clean up the edges on this and get our point cleaned up because we want a really good sharp point. Not sharp like drive into a wall, it's actually going to be flat with really sharp edges around it. If you watch the tong video, whenever we went to punch the hole and punch the slug out, the punch that I used, I wasn't paying attention. I grabbed one that wasn't sharp, and even though it knocked the slug out, it didn't knock it out all the way and it hung. It didn't make a good cut. So we're going to keep these edges really, really good and sharp, and we're going to round everything up, make it clean it up really good, and then we're going to go and heat treat. I don't have a special heat treating oven. I have my oven inside the house that we cook in every day. So my quench material that I use is vegetable oil or peanut oil or whatever fryer oil that we used or a friend of mine used, and they brought the old over and we use it. Make sure it's strained because you don't want things floating around. I don't like using motor oil. One is it'll smoke up your house, and I don't want my oven to stink. But I don't like the health benefits from that. You can use it, and if you have like a toaster oven that you can get up to heat treating temperatures, then you can use that and just use whatever medium you want to quench in. I prefer a vegetable oil because it's cleaner. It smells like fried chicken up here when I'm done, and it's just a personal preference. When we go in for the heat treat, we're gonna in the tempering process. It's called both. We're gonna have our oven set roughly between 400 and 450 degrees. It's gonna depend on your oven. You're looking for a brownish straw color, like the yellow-brown straw color. And I will try to leave a link in the description. Let's get down to the grinding room and get this cleaned up. Oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. If you do not have a grinder, and I might have said this a minute ago and forgot. If you do not have a grinder or a sander, and you want a handheld angle grinder, Northern Tool had a really inexpensive one. I want to say it's about 30 bucks, and it comes with like a sander head attachment, an angle cutoff wheel, your grinders, and I think like a wire brush also. I bought mine about a year ago, and I've not taken the cutoff head off of it. But for about 30 bucks, roughly, I can't remember exactly, it's not bad. Harbor Freight has some good sanders and some good angle grinders, very, very cheap. Sometimes you can find them for about 10 bucks. They don't have all the attachments with them, but you can pick those up fairly cheap also if you want to buy that. If you don't, then get the file set that we talked about in previous videos. Don't quench your material yet. Let it stay soft, let everything anneal down, and then file everything pretty close to shape, and then after your heat treating you should be able to file and get everything set up the way you need it to. So let's get down to the grinding room and get everything started sanding.
Okay guys, I wasn't going to do like a 30-minute video of you just seeing me use my sander and clean this up. You just want to try to get as many of the indentations, hammer marks out as you can, especially on your punch end. You also want to get your punch itself as flat as possible. That's what I'm doing right now. And keep the corners at a good 90 degree so they're good and sharp, and we'll punch that slug out clean whenever you go to punch something.
Alright guys, we're back up at the forge because I had an epiphany whenever we were down in the grinding room that not everyone might have access to an oven to where they can temper and get their heat treat on their material. So I'm going to show you how I learned how to do it at the blacksmith shop. This is a very tricky process. You can mess your material up and have to do your whole hardening and everything all over again. But what I'm going to do is heat up the back half of my material. Let me come in here close. I'm going to heat up about this much of the material to about a dull red, and I'm going to have the colors come through. And I'm going to watch the colors get up. Once a straw color gets here, I'm going to kind of quickly quench it just to stop everything, and I'm just going to leave it. I'll clamp it in the vise and leave it. I don't want any blues past this point. I need everything from about here down to roughly be that yellow and that straw color. And then we can finish out our tip and just, you know, file it and things like that. Okay guys, let's talk for a second about why you would want to heat treat or temper your punch and your chisels, knives, things like that. So keep an eye on our colors. Yeah, we're looking good. So the reason why is whenever we quenched our material, we made it super, super hard. And if you've ever looked at it like a file, and or you've ever dropped a file, and it just shattered like glass, that's the reason why you want to temper, draw back the temper. You're drawing back the hardness and making it a little bit softer of your material. It makes it to where when you hit it, it's not going to crack or shatter. Okay guys, I don't know how clear this is going to be, but I'm going to see if I can zoom in. You can see that straw color starting to come down in here, so I'm just going to leave it alone and let it do its thing for a minute and watch it. Yeah, see that pretty yellow coming through here? Now if I start seeing more of this blue start trying to travel down, I laid it on the anvil because I don't want any more heat. I want the anvil to suck out as much heat as possible. But you can see it's starting to turn that real pretty goldish color. That's what you're looking for in your heat treat and your temper. This oxidation colors will not stay there. When you go to finish polishing out, like I have some divots here that I didn't get out and things like that. When you go to clean up your punch, all this will go away. It's just oxidation colors and a good indicator to tell where you're at. So, alright guys, so this right here is your basic punch, your round, about 1/4 inch punch. If you need a bigger punch, use bigger material, upset the material on the end, whatever it is that you need to do. But let's go back and talk about what all we learned today. Okay guys, let's get real for a minute and talk about what we learned today. So you learned how to make a punch. You learned how to, you know, draw the material out, but not draw it out into a point, just draw out the material you need. We went down to the grinding room, we cleaned it up, and as you seen when I was down there grinding, I kept spinning it because I didn't want flats. I tried my best to get everything as round as possible. But you also learned about how to draw up a temper and how to harden your material. Now, whenever you harden your material, you're going to get your material to critical heat where a magnet will not stick to it anymore and quench it in oil. Now normally, if it wasn't as warm as it is here in Tennessee, even this early in the morning, I would warm up my oil by putting a hot piece of steel in there first, let my oil get warmed up a little bit, then I would quench it. Especially in the winter time, you want to make sure your oil is somewhat warm, because when you put your hot material in there and it being so cold it'll shock it, could crack your material. When you're drawing up your temper, if you're doing it in a forge, you've seen this is a very slow, time-consuming process. Now with a coal forge, you can isolate your heat a little bit better and can get different kinds of heat, but be very, very careful. If you start seeing those colors run down really fast, and you start seeing like a lot of blues and stuff start coming down, and purples coming down your material really quick, you might want to get your material out, lay it on an anvil, you know, do a quick quench in some oil or water, and not trying to cool it down completely, just slow it down. So this is our punch, guys. In the next video we'll be making a chisel out of the same material, and I'll show you the sharpening process of it and everything like that. And we're going to do the hardening process the exact same way. I'll do it here in the forge because, as I said a few minutes ago, it dawned on me, some people, especially kids and people like that, you might not have access to an oven that your mom or your wife will be like, no, you're not doing that in here. And I understand that, and that's why we did the process like this. But if you are able to do it in an oven, you're going to have to, like I said, practice somewhere between 400, about 450, depending on your oven. I think mine is about, no, I have a new oven, so I'm going to have to do a test on it. Sorry. I was trying to think if I'd made a knife since I got my new oven, and I haven't, or any punches or anything. So, you know, just run a test piece in there, cut a small piece off of what we used, scrap piece of steel. You're just wanting to see those oxidation colors. You don't have to harden it first or anything. Just Let your oven heat up to 400, I'd say 430, 440 is a good rough point. Put your material in there, see what color it turns to. If it gets that good gold color, good straw color, you're perfect. Sorry, I'm making sure we're not getting down into a cool things off just a little bit. I was getting some blues down in our area down here, and I don't want that to happen. So, alright guys, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like and subscribe button, and God bless and keep hammering.